All right, let's go back to when you came back in from the desert, and you'd been out there for, let's
10
see,
years.
10 years you were in the desert. Yeah. And your stepfather left you out there.
Right.
And came back, and going to school was very difficult because you didn't know how to read, write, tell time.
Robert, I was so far behind, there was no catching up. And I realized that. And then...
So how did Yogananda at this time enter into the picture at all?
Pardon?
How did Yogananda enter into the picture at this time?
Well, my mother never quit going up there. She, every week she was 2 or 3 times up there. And every week it was the same old scenario. Robert, man, was, being Robert. And he punished my mother, totally,
Well, there was no doubt in his mind that you weren't his son because he had a vasectomy.
Yeah, there was no doubt there,
And he blamed Yogananda.
Definitely.
And your mom told
he used to call him a F&I Arab.
Okay. And what did he call you?
A black bastard.
Okay.
Yeah. And, that didn't bother me. It didn't bother me.
Well, it hurt you to see your mom treated that way.
My mother was the main thing, It used to break my heart, I loved my mother a lot. And she loved me a lot.
So there was that one incident before Yogananda went to India. You went down to Encinitas again? Tell me about that again. That was when you were about 2.5?
Yeah, just about 2.5.
And you went down to Encinitas before the building was there.
Right.
And what happened there with you and Yogananda?
Well, when we got ready to leave, we all sat there, and my mom and Yogananda talked a lot, and Lillian was there. And when we got ready to leave, like I say, we went over and filled a canteen, and I held his finger, and we walked, and we filled that canteen, and he put his hands on my head. I couldn't really understand him because he didn't really talk that well, I didn't always understand him because he had this accent.
Okay.
And then we went over and got in the car and left, and that was the last time I seen him until after the war.
So you came back, you were out in the desert for 10 years. And then you came back to Roberts. He was pissed because your brother brought you back, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then you started to go to school, and your mom kept going out. So this would have been 1943, roughly. 10 years?
45.
45.
Yeah, 1945.
Which was a year before he wrote the autobiography of a yogi.
Is that when he wrote it?
Yeah, 46.
Yeah, okay.
When it came out. Did your friends know that you were...
Absolutely not.
What about your best buddy?
My best buddy, after some time, he came over to my house when we had one of these explosive situations between Robert and my mother. And we went outside, and he said, "Wow, what the hell is going on there?" And that's about the way he said it too, and I told him the story. I said, this is what's going on,
And that was that...
And that was what?
What did you tell him?
I told him, that, this was the situation, that I was a little bastard, and literally, and we just kind of dropped the subject, and I told him, when you come over, just whistle, and I'll come out. You know, there's no need in this, you know.
So you didn't want to tell your friends that you were Yogananda's son?
No, absolutely not.
Did your mom
And,
ever tell you that you were Yogananda's son?
My mother used to tell me, she says, Ben, you have such wonderful blood in your veins. I mean, and there was no reason to tell me, because everybody was talking about it. I mean, you know, you can only be a bystander so long before you realize what's going on. And yeah, it was talked about completely, you know. And my sisters used to tell me, you know, if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't even be here. And I used, you know, I'd go, I just forget it, you know.
In the desert, you mean?
Yeah. Yeah, we weren't really that close, my sisters and I. I was close to my mom, but my sisters were pretty ornery toward me, you know.
Now,
They cussed me a lot, you know, because of, you know, their situation, that I had caused their situation. And I didn't really realize it, you know. You know, I'm going, wow, man, what are they, you know, what's their problem anyway? And so that's the way it went, you know. And in the desert, I was by myself most of the time, because I'd take off in the morning and go hunting.
Go hunting for the food.
And I'd be gone all day, you know, and come back. So I didn't really put up with them that much.
Right.
And of course, there's no electricity or anything like that. So you go to bed, you know, when it gets dark. And
What was the name of that town or the city or the area that you were at? It was
Kingston Valley. But it was, Good Springs was our closest town.
And that was in California, or?
Good Springs is in Nevada. We was just over the border into California.
Oh, okay.
You know, just over the hill from Death Valley.
Right. Wow.
It used to get so hot there that you couldn't even believe it. Man. I've seen it be 125 degrees at 4 o'clock in the morning. And then the sun would come up. And there wouldn't be a sound. There was absolutely dead silence. I mean, a fly wouldn't even fly. I mean, it just got hot, you know. And yeah, it was.
So when did you see Yogananda again in the 40s after the war? What was that? When was the first time you saw him again? When you came back?
Well, I refused to go back. You know, I told my mother I'd never wanted to go back there. You know.
To see him?
Yeah, I didn't want to go back, and I didn't. You know.
And the reason why?
Huh?
Why did you feel that way?
Because it was such an embarrassing situation. I mean, this was not a glorious situation, tra-la-la, you know, no way. This was such an embarrassing situation, and things were bad enough the way they were, you know. I mean, I didn't have clothes, I didn't, you know, I mean, I was, you know, looked down upon, and I just didn't want to deal with it. I just set it behind me. And if any of these young guys would have seen that my father was up on Hollywood Boulevard wearing orange robes and long hair, it would not have worked at all.
They would have done what?
Oh, it would have run me out of the country. Oh, yeah. That just didn't fly.
So that brings us up, say, 1946. Then it brings us up, your mom kept going back up there and visiting.
Right.
She got letters from him in the desert.
Yeah.
But you don't have any of those letters because your sisters or what?
Yeah, my sisters got everything.
Yeah.
you know.
Your sisters are gone and your brothers are gone?
Yeah, everybody's gone. I'm the only one left.
Only one left. So when Yogananda passed in 1952, what was that like?
My mother totally fell apart. And I stayed with her and helped her through this. I mean, she was absolutely devastated, man. She couldn't quit crying, and it went on for days, you know. And gosh, I just, you know, it just tore my heart out. I couldn't believe, man, you know, and she just couldn't get over it. She couldn't get over it. And that was the beginning of the end right there, you know. And God, she just, it's just hard to describe, you know. I mean, I'd have to take her food and make her eat and sit with her and tell her, you know, and then she'd be all right for a few minutes, and then she'd start crying again. And she just went, it was awful. It was definitely awful, you know. And I still look back on these times and think about it and feel so sorry for my mother.
And she was about how old at that time? What year was she born?
I don't really know.
Oh, okay.
It's on some of that stuff
okay.
there, but
yeah.
I don't really have it. And
but you were around 19.
Yeah.
You just came back from
being in Texas.
In the National Guard, right?
Yeah, in the National Guard, and I got out of the Guards in '50, and I joined in 1947, and that was my saving grace right there, because you know it gave me money, and at this time the Guard was active a lot, you know, so I had money coming in. And I was able to take care of myself, and I didn't have to go home anymore, you know. And I stayed with Roy a lot, and I stayed with a lot of other guys a lot, and then I went to Texas, and Texas was a big boom deal right then, you know. In Snyder, Texas, it was a boom town, and they had these cot houses. You know, it cost you 75 cents a night to stay in a cot house. And they had a blackboard on the inside of the door. And if you were working, no problem, you know. But if you weren't working, you could write your name and your bunk number on the blackboard. And I did that, and a day or two later, the driller come in looking for help, and he come down to my bunk, and he said, "How old are you?" And I says, "I'm 20. I'm 21, man." And he told me, I'll never forget it, because he started laughing at me, you know, and he said, "Yeah, I don't think so," you know. And I said, "Yeah, I am. I got my discharge right here in my bag, you know." And he said, "Okay." And he says, I'll take you on. And he took me out, and I worked for him for a long time. And we drilled holes everywhere. But those were good times, and the money was good. I made $1.52 an hour floor hand, you know, and that was big money.
Yeah.
You know, and I had nice clothes, and you know, it was great.
Life was good.
Yeah, life was good, man.
So then you left Texas and came back?
And I come back to L.A.
Met Lorna?
Yeah, I met Lorna. And
Fell
she was still just a little kid, you know, but, you know, we seen each other, and something clicked, you know. But it was a lot of years before we ever got together, you know. And so when she was 18, we got married.
And you were, what, 7 years older than her?
Yeah, 7 years old.
7 years older. So
yeah.
you took off for Vegas because her dad wasn't too hot on you, huh?
Oh, Yeah, her dad did not like me, you know.
Why do you
And,
think that was?
well, I wasn't really the kid that you wanted to see your daughter come home dragging in, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, I had quite a bad reputation because you know, I got beat up several times, pretty bad, when we come from the desert, and people, you know, picked on me a little bit because I was a ragamuffin,
Yeah.
you know. And so then I made sure that nobody was going to be able to kick my tail end around anymore, ever, you know. And I got to be a pretty good fighter. And my brother, Danny, was a professional boxer, you know.
Okay.
And I used to go train with him. And I got to be a very good fighter.
Uh-huh.
And but so I didn't really have a good reputation.
And all this stuff about Yogananda wasn't brought up at all?
Oh, no. I set that behind me and forgot it, and that was it. You know, that was it. Excuse me.
Yeah, no.
Right, sorry. I put your ball back.
Huh?
I put your ball back on your truck.
Okay, come here. A fella